Wow, what an episode this is. Possibly the most important and most powerful episode I've ever recorded in 2.5 years of doing Manufacturing Leaders. You're going to absolutely love this one. My name is Mark Bracknell. I'm the Managing Director of Theo James Recruitment. And today I had a great guest on in Jeff Hope, the Manufacturing Director of Axe Nobel up in Ashington, someone I've wanted to get on the show for an awful long time. We talk about the importance of building a community which is inclusive and gives people the opportunity to progress. And we talk in detail about that and many sort of facets around that. Jeff's passion is simply infectious, and I had goosebumps on numerous occasions whilst filming this episode. You're going to understand what it truly takes to be an inclusive employer that actually cares about his staff, and the importance and the direct positive impact that can have on all of your employees, and actually how important leaders are and the integral part they play in that process, and also the integral part of manufacturers at big and small take in that process, and also what it takes to build a fantastic, sustainable manufacturing organization with a brilliant culture. This episode is going to change the way you think about business, but actually, more important than that, it's going to change the way you think about people and humans. It was a real deep and very, very important episode that I'm very proud to have recorded with Jeff. So please sit back and listen and enjoy the episode. Please just click that subscribe and like button if you're watching or listening. It really helps me grow the show, and hope you enjoy the episode. Take care. Fantastic. So a massive warm welcome today to Jeff Hope on the podcast. Jeff, someone I wanted on this podcast for a long time. I was lucky enough to have Shirley Spores on, who was phenomenal, and she spoke a lot about what Jeff's done. So Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to have a bit of a chat. Appreciate it, Mark.
And I must say that is the for people watching, not listening, that's the best backdrop I think we've ever had, by the way. And it was I always thought it was a Zoom instructor one at first, and I've got the Dual Lux dog behind you, which is which is great. So yeah, there we are. So I'll perhaps ask you about the Dual Lux dog, some trade secrets later in the podcast. But first question is the same one I ask everyone, Jeff. What does it mean to you to be a leader?
I think for me, first of all, I always treat it as a privilege. I think we're privileged to be able to work. If you can get up every day and go to work, we're privileged, and leadership certainly is a privilege. I think after that, is it more complicated than just getting from A to B? You're trying to change something, and leadership is the process of change in many respects, and that's the way that I look at it, and that's what leadership is. It's, you know, you're trying to get to something normally from where you are.
Yeah, excellent. And I like the fact, you know, that privilege piece is massive, because it's so easy to forget that as well. And like you say, I don't think it's privilege just for leadership. It's just to go to work every day, because so many people unfortunately can't. And starting off quite deep, but I've tried to start remembering that more and more now sometimes, where I wake up and go, but actually, I'm lucky I'm driving to somewhere that I actually enjoy working. I'm lucky I'm getting in my car and going to work. It's too easy to forget when you're in the rat race, isn't it?
It is. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes we don't learn to appreciate unless we've had some difficult times, or some of our loved ones has had difficult times. But if we can remember that, and then you think, well, this is actually a bonus. And I find, you know, for me, it gives us a lot of energy to think, well, I'm privileged to be here. I'm lucky to be part of, you know, your organization, whomever that is. And then from that, I think it just gives you an outlook of opportunity, you know, rather than work. Meeting wonderful people, looking at opportunities to make an impact, and that absolutely is something motivational to me, for sure.
100%. Because I think that there's unfortunately too many people out there who will just accept that work is somewhere you go to because you have to, and they live for 5, 6 p.m. wherever it is, or work for the weekend. And look, people should probably quite rightly enjoy time outside of work more than inside of work, but you spend most of your life at work, don't you? So, if you can't appreciate it, then you've got to do something about it, haven't you? But it's massive.
Yeah, I think we can be guilty a bit in well, that's in manufacturing and the private sector, but I just think that we can be guilty a bit of not realizing how much we can actually change. When you're asking us about leadership, we can be very inwardly focused and not necessarily realizing how influential business is of any scale. It can be hugely positively influential for the employees, but a business's place in the community, its role locally, regionally, nationally, the contribution that you can make to the United Kingdom, the contribution you make on productivity, on learning, on innovation, they're all there and they're all possible. But sometimes we can be very much inwardly focused, and I think for me certainly is the times past. It's something that still surprises us how much we can get done if we choose to just look at a bigger picture, and really rewarding work as well, that it can be mutually beneficial. That I really do believe in a path with business where you have mutually beneficial outcomes for the business, the employees, the community. It is absolutely possible, and that is something that shapes really a lot of the decisions, and certainly the longer term thinking for me. And that's where a lot of the interest is as well. It isn't, if you make it more than just about what it is that you're doing, your margins that you're trying to make, and more than just seeing how do you get to that internal measure of success, then there's a few things actually take care of themselves over the long line.
100%. And that segues is nicely into what I'm really keen to sort of go straight into with you, really, because AkzoNobel are one of those companies that everyone knows about. They're a huge company, but I think everyone knows them now in the Northeast for all the right reasons. Why was it important for you personally that they were going to be different to other, and that's no disrespect, but other employees in the area? Why was that always important for you, would you say?
I think for me, my background is I had a few years of working away from home when I first finished college, 6 years, as a navigator on exploration vessels, which, you learn so much then. You know so little, still know so little today. But you learn the good and the bad. And one of the things I learned about that time was the value of home, and probably for the first time in my life, I look back and started thinking, especially as you see different regions and countries around the world, you start to think, goodness me, what a bloody lovely, beautiful place we live in. And for me, that's Northumberland, and I think then I had 12 years at the working for Alcan, or Rio Tinto, Alcan as it was, at the aluminium smelter up here, and wonderful experience, massive part of the community, supporting thousands of jobs, and that ran its course, and unfortunately the operation was shut down, and that's not a good experience, being part of that, and you learn. And I think at that point, it was then when you're looking at other options about, look, what are you going to achieve? I was sitting thinking, what am I going to achieve? What's your legacy? What do you want to do with the next part, the next chapter of your life? And the valuing and loving home, valuing the stability of good employment and how it impacts families and communities. I think at that point, and then seeing something be shut and people have to go and find that a different way in life, I think at that point it become clear to me that I didn't want to relocate and do similar work I made the decision then to think I want to build something back for Northumberland, for the Northeast. I want to recreate the best bits, or be part of recreating the best bits of stable, good employment, but also, find a way forward that allows outstanding performance. What is their magic set of ingredients that allows a business to flourish, employees to be engaged, to get in the car, drive to work, walk to work, thinking, I'm looking forward to getting into work today, enjoying the crack, really feeling proud about what they're doing, and having a much bigger impact than just, the bottom elements of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of shelter, food, wages, more than that, being more than just that. That was the thing where I was interested, and therefore that is a bit unique. And we're lucky if we find that. And so that in itself says, well, we need to do something different, and we need to do something that stands out. And it was, that backdrop for me that made us think, right, let's really get to grips with what have we learned, what is the theory telling us, what does the history tell us, what does our heritage tell us, what does best practice tell us, what do outstanding organizations tell us, make sense of that, but make it something that's anchored in our county, in our heritage, and start with the aspiration from day one of, let's just be outstanding. Everything we do, let's just be outstanding at it. And that's important. Axon and Bell, the role they play, I guess, in that, for me, was the coincidence really of another multinational, large global company, the heritage back to Sir Alfred, Alfred Nobel, the Nobel Prizes, the heritage of that company acquiring ICI, and the heritage of ICI and the role it's played, choosing to invest in the Northeast. And for me, it looked like, wow, there's the match between a new build, new technology, a company with resources, a company that, to me, from the outset, clearly did genuinely value sustainability, value its relationships with its communities. And I thought, well, I could be proud being part of that. And actually, it's a bit of a blank canvas, because Axon and Bell said, we want something outstanding. We're going to make our biggest ever investment. We want the best technology, but we want absolutely the best culture. And so that was the coincidence of it, really, for me.
Love that. And I think what's been apparent there as well is, and every time I think about Axon and Bell and I talk to people, it's the one word that comes to me is always community. It's the culture and the community seem to go hand in hand, and that isn't always the case for most manufacturers. Sometimes people can live within a mile of somewhere and not know it's there. So that is definitely, that must be a conscious move and something you've had to work on proactive. Was that the plan from the get-go?
It was, and I think it was just, an advantage for me is being born and bred in Northumberland, and what I've always look back and think is wonderful is the strength, the determination, the power of the people here. And is that unique? Probably not. People are people the world over, but what I've seen is how much passion we can put into our football, how much passion into growing leeks, racing pigeons, all of those things that maybe in my past and we're associated with, but actually being part of it and seeing how much determination there is if you get the cause right. And we've got lots of examples of work is work. I'm finished on a Friday, then my life begins, and we're throw our passion and energy into that. which is great. But the question for me is, look, how do we make this an integral and fundamental part of people's lives? How do we make it much more than having a job? How do we provide a cause that we can be proud of, a cause that is apparent, that's relevant, and for the right reasons, which come right the way back to our relationships in life, the stability that we need, and the challenges that we need. And that, I've seen, and we've been able to provide an opportunity for people to put things right that maybe didn't get right the first time around. And that was something really important to us. What I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. For me, when I went through school, one of the things that I was always struggled with was doing long division, right, in maths. It always, I was thought, and you get these things, whether it's presenting, whether it's maths, whether it's solving problems, but you can end up, for one reason or another, feeling that they're something you're not good at. And actually, we can be outstanding at most things we choose, but it requires the right support, access to the right resources, and most of all, encouragement and opportunity. And so for some of our team, as an example, we have a lot of people that's just for the first time done their English and maths level GCSE, just to put some of them foundation elements in, and then provides an opportunity for people to move on. And it's fantastic seeing, what people can offer, giving people the opportunity and seeing what people can do. And that's where you start to get this mutually beneficial thing happening, where it's building confidence for an individual. We all take our work home, whether we realize it or not. So you get people happy at work, confident at work, progressing and learning. That has an impact on families, on family life. Families have an impact on our communities, and the whole thing's a cycle, isn't it? So playing, being an enabler to that, when you've got the opportunity, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you try and do that? And you see the returns flowing into the business and the performance of the business as well, because it's more than work.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what? As a business, it's obviously got so much to be proud of. It's amazing to see your passion, and it generally is absolutely amazing. I'm sure people listening think will hopefully reignite that spark in them, because it's so important. The stuff I've seen coming out of Bell links in quite nicely to what you're saying there. They have things in place to have an environment for people who would typically find difficult to be employed from manufacturing firms, and that would be your people not in education, employment training. That would be other minority groups, and it's clear to see this isn't being something that is just to tick a box. This is something that Accent Bell are proud of. You're all in, and I imagine you've seen benefits and challenges, I guess, for that, because nothing like that is easy. But tell me, that's obviously a journey you've been on, isn't it?
It is, and it's actually just more of this. It's more of the same. It's thinking, if we want to be sustainable, it's logical that our workforce needs to represent the community we operate in. That kind of makes sense. And so if you look into our communities, people's at all different stages. Some people's in work, some people aren't. Some people might be classed as having a disability. Some people might not. To be honest, we've all got our abilities and disabilities, but that's our system. And unfortunately, some of our systems, some of the tags that we can place result in barriers for people to have opportunity. And if you just don't see that, if you just see people, out there, and think, how do we enable our people to achieve the best they can? How do we provide the opportunity, if someone chooses to contribute, to learn and develop? Then you realize that you might have been part of the problem. You know, we're great at putting role descriptions out, asking for everything under the sun in a job advert. You know, and you know, we can be quite you know, prejudiced, almost narrow-minded in what we associate performance being like. And I've certainly been guilty of that in the past, and I've got many flaws that when I look at, I think, yeah, you've not got your head around that right. And so, you know, if an example would be, let's more that appears to be more people, well, let's call neurodiversity, for instance. You know, there's a lot of people, most people, if you look in most families, there's people with varying degrees of challenges. And you got to think, well, you know, what do we want to do about that? Because we can do something about that. What we can do is provide the best chance of people making a contribution and fulfilling that potential, irrespective of whatever that challenges are. So therefore, as an employer, we have to have as pure and open mind as possible. So the way that we approach that here is that we've defined a set of principles. The founding principle is a diverse environment that motivates people to learn and grow. And the diverse bit of that is a huge opportunity that I feel is often missed. And I think now we've been here in Ashen for 10, 11 years, I think, as a team. And we've got solid examples now of the greater the diversity, the better the problem solving. The greater the diversity, the better the culture. The greater the diversity, the better understanding we have, the more empathy we have, and the more respect we have for people, which, stripping it back, comes down to relationships. And if we can get away from having all of our work relationships as transactional and become transformational, then we can really get somewhere. And so we have done everything we can really to reach people that might not be in employment, might not be in training, with partnership with Benicia, who has a lot of houses in the area and has access to, you know, a good percentage of the local population, actually. And, you know, together we've been able to describe the opportunities for people to do pre-employment training. And we've also done work with some of the local colleges, some of the students there, or adults that are, you know, tagged as special educational needs or similar. We have just really said, why don't you come to our factory? We will give you a program, we'll give you different experiences of different jobs, and let's see if there's a match somewhere. Let's try and support that. And if we see progress, if we see benefit, then we're going to continue to work on that. And what does that look like today? It means that the diversity of our workforce has increased. It means that we recruit on attitude, on mindset, not skills as such. So we've dropped as many of the barriers as possible, test for people's heart, people's commitment. And we'll have, you know, a range of people with what would be classed as different abilities that contribute to the success of our business, that are really hard working. You know, some people that have challenges, it's simple things like how does someone get to work, you know, and perhaps if they can't drive, the public services sometimes aren't great. We need to do some little things there, just helping, organising things to get people to and from work. We have to invest in the awareness training for our employees to support different aspects to make sure that, you know, the reality for a job is it's very dependent upon who you work with, who you spend most of your time with. So we've got to get that side of it right to allow people to be successful. And that's what we've done. And so we see the diversity increasing. There are individuals that without the opportunity and without, the time spent, primarily without their determination actually and their family support, they're in employment now as part of our team, whereas beforehand they wouldn't be. And that's a success, because there's the individual success, there's the family success, there's the contribution they make to our team and the different perspectives that's brought there. There's a contribution to the region and the nation. The more people that are in work, the more that us as employers remove barriers to work, the more successful the country runs. It's just the right thing to do. But we have to look at this, and would urge people to look at it more fundamentally different and think about what barriers are we putting in place, understand it and enable it. And rather than seeing work like that and direction like that is something that is just maybe for the right thing, it's the way to get an increased performance. It's not only, the right thing enables the right outcomes, and I truly believe that, and we have experience of that.
Apologies for interrupting this podcast for a very quick 30-second pitch of my business. Theo James are a specialist manufacturing and engineering recruitment search firm based in Seaham in the Northeast. If you're looking for any staff or a new opportunity yourself, from a semi-skilled level right the way up to C-suite executive, then please get in touch. We have a specialist consultant in each discipline ready to help. I'm extremely proud of what we've built over the years, and I'd love to extend that service out to you. Thank you. Enjoy the podcast. Yeah, and I think it's amazing what you've done there, because you've stopped looking at people like most people do in employment as pieces of paper on black and white paper. You look at them as people. And what you said there about is the heart and the attitude and the values piece. I mean, right now we're in the middle of probably the worst sort of skill shortage storm we've ever seen, but yet people are still not changing the ways they try and recruit. They're just not. They're expecting a different result from the same things, and it's mad.
Well, it's interesting because one of the outcomes of taking the approach that approach is that we very rarely need to externally recruit, because everybody's on a pathway, and so we bring resources in, but we fill most of our positions through development and promotion. Something like, I think it's over a third of our employees in the last 12 months have been promoted, and that shows this progression, and then it gets you away also from them debates around, well, what's your base salary increases this year? We want a pay rise. Everybody wants a pay rise, of course we do, and you'd be daft if you thought that wasn't ever going to be a reality. But there's other ways to do that, if it can be through progression and being promoted and earning more salary, developing the application of technology. One of the positive outcomes of more automation, embracing technology, is that the roles, the skills in the roles and the requirement grows. So you tend to have a more higher skilled requirement, and over time that grows. So you're actually upskilling your entire workforce, broadly speaking. But the nice thing as well, which is it's a bit ironic, is I think if you look in the theory of, let's call it HR theory for one, it will suggest that employee engagement, diversity are good for your business. Yet often the reality is they're seen as a cost, a complexity that's not needed. I know. I've got the experience. I believe from the outset it was possible, but now after so many years of working this way, I've seen that the theory's right. It's like the theory of lean manufacturing. The relentless pursuit to eliminate waste, and the discipline required to be outstanding from average, have outstanding process. The theory's there, but we really often struggle to fully embrace it, and it requires a faith and a belief, quite deep rooted actually, to stick with it. But I know when you do, it works. And so you don't need to look around for where the answers are there. The challenge is the way it's about our belief and buy into them that holds us back. When you do, and you commit to these known best practices, the success does come. And I see the direct relationship between your belief and your investment in what's well-known, established best practices and your results. Yeah. And why are they not common? Well, because it means we've got to change, doesn't it? They're small changes, they're 5% changes, but we're comfortable. And I think often we'll get away with doing it the same thing every day unless we have to not. You know, we're a bit programmed that way. So having these systems and understanding this as these little nudges that we need as humans just to keep our discipline right, just to keep our challenge, because without it, we'll be a bit too comfortable. And you know, that I still see everywhere you look, if you think about how to improve our business performance, there's so much good information out there, isn't there? But what's the differential? The differential is the belief and the ability to actually apply it over the medium and long term and stick with it long enough to allow you to get the benefit. I mean, I would say it, you know, starting a site for anybody that's done that, it's quite difficult. You know, the hardest bit about new greenfield advanced technology sites is not designing it, it's not building it, it's getting the thing operating and making a success for your business. And you know, a lot of our investment in the thinking, it did feel a bit contradictory in those early years. It would be easy for us to go out and recruit, you know, a fully qualified technicians. Well, it wouldn't be easy, actually, there's not many of them, but you can do that, and we did do that for a period. But we're stuck with our beliefs, and we develop, you know, operators, apprenticeships into technicians, into engineers, and now we're reaping the benefits. But it took 3-4 years of pain, is the reality. But by God, you know, I'm so pleased that we did it, and we get the rewards of it. And now, actually, in a market where the labour is probably tighter than it's ever been, so it's really returning on that for us.
I'm really seeing that now with the apprenticeships. I'm seeing a lot of companies. I think, you know, COVID played its part where companies had to suddenly look very short term, but we're now seeing that where people invested 4 or 5 years ago into their apprenticeship scheme, they are now reaping the rewards versus companies that didn't, and then they're scrapping around. They're now paying, you know, top rate for apprentices, you know, which is crazy because they wouldn't need to do that.
I think, to be fair to a lot of companies, though, I think, you know, where we're larger companies and we've got the resources, we do have to play a leadership role in this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of companies are struggling. The finances is really tight, and it's a hell of a responsibility to just, you know, if you are a sole trader, you know, adding 1 employee is a hell of a commitment, and a lot of the time, you know, and I still feel this now, when we might choose to increase the size of our workforce or recruit people, you do really take seriously the commitment, and you feel like, you know, you want it to work. You don't want to do it and then it doesn't work out and somebody, you know, needs to find a different job. And so I think the larger companies, we need to take the leadership position on this, where we have got the resources to do it. And in the shorter term, what does that mean? Yeah, it means you've got to trade off a bit on your margins. You've got to take a bit of cost, but you get that. You absolutely do get that back. And I do empathize with companies where, you know, it's not as easy to be able to support the investment of adding team members. The other thing, I think, a bit of a misconception is around apprentices as well. You know, our apprentices are between 17 and 50 something. You know, what does an apprentice mean? Apprentice to us just means somebody that's learning through experience to be competent in a role. And part of that is an academic element, and part of that is an endorsement of the program and the skills by, you know, like Northumberland College, for instance, who we work with. That's an element of it. But actually, it's about developing people in the workplace and having people that's able to train. You know, we do lean type training here at the site for what other factories around Europe, and they come here to learn about how we work and our management systems and things. And one of the principles of that, which we never forget, is, you know, if the student isn't learning, the teacher isn't teaching. And that's the approach that we take. It's our responsibility to provide the right environment and the right approach to allow people to develop.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what you're talking about there is so important as well, because you're absolutely right. The bigger companies have a responsibility to try to improve the manufacturing industry, because it is tougher probably than it ever has been for a lot of companies right now. You know, prices, tariffs, whatever else you want to throw at it, it is so hard right now to be a UK manufacturer, but we are still a powerhouse, and collectively we should be working together. And I'm seeing a bit of that, but I don't think we see enough of it, and we don't.
No, you make a really valid point there. I think the opportunity is in the collectively. I do feel we are still quite isolated. The larger companies, there is some movement on that. You know, we've been involved in working with some of the larger companies in and around Northumberland on skills and trying to help provide a better, you know, the next generation workforce. But we aren't that good at that, Mark. Is the reality? It still feels like there's an element of what's in it for us. If there isn't something in it for the individual company, then there's not such a willingness to learn together. And you know, I do think about how do we get better at that. Some of the tactics we use are more traditional ones. I mean, you enter competitions. We'll choose what we might enter to bring a spotlight on perhaps employing people with disability in the workplace. And really, what are we doing there? You're just trying to get people to think, hey, I wonder if we could do that. Hey, that might work.
Yeah.
We need to do more as larger companies in the region. And perhaps, you know, sometimes the realities of operating the business they always feel demanding, and I think sometimes we probably just don't know what it is. So I'm sure if we've got all our business leaders together in the region, everybody will be up for improving things and doing the right thing. But the way to do that is often the bit that's missing. You know, what's the pragmatic steps that as business leaders we need to take? What's the strategy that we need to adjust? The nice thing is a lot of it's for free. But what are the adjustments we do need to make to enable things to progress, and sharing across different industry types as well? I mean, we do a fair bit of work with education, and we started with the aim of trying to help inform education and curriculum content to serve industry better. But what we actually realize is there's so many benefits to that partnership. We developed so much as individuals, and we've learned so much from our colleagues in the schools and in the colleges that we've brought back to our business and implement. And so that they're mutually beneficial. The word I like is partnerships. You know, long-standing partnerships in a region, education and companies can only bring positive things.
100%. Can I ask you advice on something? So something you said right at the start, Jeff, was it was important to tax the bell that you're going to do the best investment you could do and create the best culture. And those don't necessarily come hand in hand. And sometimes, you know, you might find someone going, it's okay for a bigger business because they can throw money at something to invest. However, I don't believe throwing money at anything necessarily improves your culture. That's a complete different scenario. What do you think has been the most important aspect of having a culture there that you're proud of, would you say, of all the things you do?
I think well, I know what the most important thing is, and it's about the beliefs, really. It's about your belief system and having the faith to stick with it. It's having that overarching set of principles around, we're going to do the right thing here, and that, know our beneficiaries and do the right thing for them in the long term. And you're right, the culture is fundamental, and it's free, financially free.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a wonderful opportunity culture presents. And the most important thing for me is that unwavering belief that there is a better way of running a business. There is a mutually beneficial way of running a business that supports our communities, that enables everybody, irrespective of level of disability, irrespective of any type of, characteristic or measure of diversity, irrespective of that, there is a way of getting that inclusivity into business, and business being immersed in its community, which then is mutually beneficial. And it requires discipline, it requires commitment, and it requires year on year unwavering belief. And it's got to start with the management and the leadership. It's got to be in there. If you haven't got that leadership and that belief right, the leader doesn't believe in that, then obviously.
Oh, I lost you. Oh, I lost you, Jeff. You're back. I can edit. It's fine.
One of the measures that we look at when we look at different plants and culture and things is, I'll often say that what you've got in your business is a direct reflection of your leadership over time. Mm-hmm. So if the way I look at it, and if I visit other sites and there might be a story there about, we don't do this well, the culture's not right, people do this, that, and the other. Over time, I firmly believe that whatever's happening is a reflection of whatever's happening in your management and your leadership. And so if you want it to be different, then the first step has to be taken by the leader. It has to be taken by the management, because you've got to earn the entitlement to ask some of the rest of your team to do something differently. So you do something differently first, and then I believe you've earned that entitlement to have a dialogue about, could other people do something differently as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think links in so nicely with a lot of stuff you talked about as well, because I completely agree. Culture is free, and there's things you can start to change from day one. You can go into a business tomorrow and there's low-hanging fruit there. And I think one of them is, without doubt, what you've already mentioned, is that training piece. It's interesting because we run surveys every year. And obviously, salary is always the most important thing. There's no getting around that. We people want to get paid as much as they can do. But over the last sort of 5 years, I've seen a real shift into what's important to people. It's not always necessarily about the tangible benefits now. It's more about that progression piece, that training piece, actually the transparency to it now. I think the new generation want to know what they need to do to get promoted. Now, some people see that's a negative. I see it as an opportunity as a business, that we've got we have an opportunity now to go, fantastic, we can harness this generation of really ambitious people.
Yeah, I think we have to be positive about the next generation. Often we're not, right? Some of the brilliant things that I can see in the next generation through being involved in recruitment is a desire for a bigger meaning, a desire to care more. Mm-hmm. And they are great ingredients, actually, because then the proposition changes from running a business with employees to, we are fighting for our region. We are fighting to make Northumberland a better place in our case. What do we do? Well, this is what we do. We're making our home better, and we're actually getting paid for doing that at the same time. We are doing the right things for our environment, and we're getting paid for it at the same time. So I think I agree with you. That's huge opportunity if we can recognize that people do, and it's in the theory. It's in, like I mentioned earlier about Maslow's hierarchy. I still refer to that and use that in training today. It's in there that we've got these basic requirements, but then we've got these aspirational requirements. We've got these needs that we need to meet about, have we done something valuable? Are we being challenged? And recognizing that that's how we're made up, we've got to learn the keys to the next generation and work with a great opportunity that generation presents. I know one of my team was on a young leaders conference, which Bob Geldof was speaking at. And she was telling us what Bob Geldof had said, and I thought it was really good. You got to excuse the language, if you like, but he effectively said to all of these future leaders of all the big companies in Europe, he said, our generation's fucked it up. Yeah. You have to make a better job of this. Yeah. And I really empathize with that. And so therefore, sometimes we apply our standards and thinking to a different generation, and they're not relevant. Let's not waste time with that. I think that there's so much opportunity there around a much bigger meaning to work, and quite rightly asking why. And if we can provide the meaning to that, match that up, again, there's clear benefits.
Completely agree. That employee value proposition piece has always been there. It's like a new buzzword, EVP. It's always been there. It's just, but that sustainability piece is now attached to it so closely, because you're completely right, Jeff. The new generation, they don't pretend to care. Like I actually probably 5 years thought that was the case. They do genuinely care about the community and making a difference. And that means companies have got an opportunity right now where a lot of them are forced to change the factory sustainability. Whether they are, they aren't. They now have the opportunity to go, right, well, let's do it properly. Let's involve the team, not just employ someone to do it. Let's create ESG teams internally and do something we're proud of. It's an opportunity.
Yeah. And also, I think we need to be challenged. Like, you've got to welcome challenge.
Yeah.
It's sometimes you can say you're only as good as your customer. Business is only as good as its customers, and that's referring to the challenge the customer brings to the business. Yeah. And it's the same with the employees. Welcome the challenge that people bring. It's only going to make you stronger.
100%. I'm going to ask you one last question, because I could have a part 2, part 3 for this. I could talk forever. I'm going to ask you one last question. If you could wave a magic wand and improve UK manufacturing today with one wish, what would it be?
I believe that we need to allow a more diverse range of people, whether that's disability or other, to have a meaningful role in employment. And so the magic wand would be to remove the barriers, the preconceptions, and allow a truly representative, diverse workforce to show its full potential, because in there, I believe, lies the answer.
Amazing. Look, I was looking forward to it, and I'm glad I was, because it feels like one of the most important podcasts I've done, I would say, Jeff, because you know what? I think the reason why I love doing this is now because I often get messages of people going, I love that episode because it helped me in this situation. But I think this is one which will do that, but also it's got a bigger meaning that, we have a responsibility as leaders and, whatever business you're on in the business to make a difference, and to not just look at what's there and what has always been the case, but to try and challenge the norm sometimes, because I think, what AkzoNobel are doing is absolutely unbelievable. I think it's fantastic. So, I mean, next 12, 18 months for What's on the agenda? Lots more change, I imagine.
More investment, more growth for the Asherton site, more volume here as well. So we've got a really bright future, and we're at the moment just detailing out, what that growth looks like, what the specifics of the investments are that we need, and it's wonderful because I've got a team here that's capable of doing that work, that without much prompt are willing to look 5, 10, 15, 20 years ahead for the future and the best interests for our area. And so that's the next few months for us. It's very positive.
Amazing. And I know, as a business, you are always open and you welcome other companies to come and see sites. And I've heard of so many people that have come and seen the site, and we hosted an event there, and really, really happy to, privileged to have done that. So, but look, thank you so much, Jeffrey. It's been amazing. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Mark. Appreciate the chat as well. It's always good to reflect upon things. Appreciate the questions and the challenge as well.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Manufacturing Leads podcast. It absolutely means the world to me. Please let me know if you need any assistance. As a business, we look at providing partnerships with manufacturing engineering companies to really help their recruitment and retention. On the recruitment piece, anywhere from blue collar, semi-skilled staff, right the way up to C-suite level executive appointments, but also much more than that. We run events, so please let me know if you're interested in any of those. If you are interested indeed becoming a podcast guest, I'd be very, very keen to speak to you as well. More than happy to do so. But as a business, as I say, we look at key partnerships to really help your recruitment, your retention, your marketing, your training. We really believe in the partnership piece and being an extension of your business. So we're very proud to work in this sector. I love manufacturing engineering, and my staff are just as passionate about it as I am. So thank you once again for listening. Please get in touch to talk about anything we can do to help. Look forward to speaking to you very soon. Thank you.